Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Ram Thorburn here, and we're back with another hip shop video. Today, we're going to be responding to an article from Salon.com, and honestly, I don't know why I do this to myself. It's called Soldiers of the Boogaloo, David Niewer on the Far Right's Plans for a New Civil War. Author of Alt America, what happens this year will be a key turning point on the path from democracy to fascism. So we can already tell right here that this is written by a couple of big-time liberals who, I mean, we can just tell from the we can tell from the byline here. We can hear them just shaking in their Birkenstocks, you know. But there's going to be copious amounts of gaslighting in here. There's going to be copious amounts of not understanding anything about the right, because the left does not understand anything about the right. In fact, it was Jonathan Haidt's, what was the study that the famed sociologist Jonathan Haidt did a study and shows that the right typically understands the left and disagrees with them, and the left just doesn't understand the right at all. And I think we are going to see that completely on display here in this article. So you're probably going to, you might get a little revved up in this one, just hearing all of the gaslighting and how they put down people on the right. And well, let's just get into this. So this is by Chauncey de Vega. The U.S. government has the U.S. government has the official public policy of never negotiating with terrorists, paying them ransom, or otherwise surrendering to their demands. The logic is simple. To give in to terrorists is to encourage more violence and other attacks. It would appear the state of Michigan does not follow the same policy. Now, any of you guys heard of any terrorism attacks in the country lately? Because I haven't heard of a single fucking one. Yeah, I know we had some armed militia people go and stand peacefully holding their rifles at the state, at the state capitol. But that is not a terrorist attack, and it is well within the framework of our Constitution and our God-given rights that are protected by the Constitution. So already you can see the way that they're going to frame this is that the people that want to take up arms and defend the Constitution are actually terrorists trying to threaten democracy. So let's which, by the way, let's just get into this before I go too far. Last Thursday, the Michigan State Legislature announced that it will not convene because threats of violence and chaos by armed right-wing militias and other paramilitaries, as previously seen during the recent anti-lockdown protests. Now, what violence did we see by the armed protesters at the coronavirus, at the lockdown protests? I don't recall any violence being seen. The problem with these lefties is that they see the presence of a gun and the threat of they see a threat of violence in the gun, and therefore think that because people are holding the gun, that they intend to actually carry out violence. In fact, it is a warning of our Constitution. It is a warning and a reminder to people not to tread on us because we have constitutional rights. We believe in the Constitution. In what could be considered an act of treason, oh God, this is already terrible. In what could be construed as an act of treason, President Trump recently ordered such paramilitary groups and right-wing thugs. Oh, really? You're calling them thugs? So there's no bias in this at all, is there? To take up arms and to threaten Democratic-led state governments such as Michigan's, in order to force them to reopen their state. Such behavior is a broader pattern of right-wing terrorism and violence in the United States, where armed militias and paramilitaries have allied with the Republican Party in its effort to delegitimize and undermine democracy. First of all, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional representative republic. Democracy is with democratic principles. So we have a democratic process in terms of electing our representatives. But we are not a flat-out democracy. In fact, the Founding Fathers hated the idea of a flat-out democracy because that means the majority can run roughshod over the minority in any position. It's two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. So we are not a democracy. So first of all, these guys clearly do not understand what they're even talking about from the jump. So Let's continue to delve into this madness and see what else they have to say. Such an alliance is common to failing democracies and rising fascist movements. The example offered by the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler in the 1930s is perhaps the most ominous. Wow, they're already at the Hitler talk. I mean, you know the argument is lost when you're bringing up Hitler. That's so trite at this point. Excuse me. And let's look at what they're actually doing. They're combating against authoritarian state governments, shutting down entire economies, keeping people from being able to work, and just trotting all over our rights. So they are trying to prevent the government from doing that kind of thing. These are not fascists. They are fighting against authoritarianism. How do you guys not see that? How do you guys not understand that? I think they actually understand this perfectly. And this is just them gaslighting, because this is what pussies do. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what it means when you give weak people like this person power. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and continue. Right-wing terrorism is and will be a future template for Trump and his movement against their perceived or real enemies. White neo-fascist violence and the threat of such violence have consistently escalated during the age of Trump. Really? What escalation of violence have you seen under Trump? We've had a few shootings, and some of them have been Antifa, but you can't really go and blame any of this shit on Trump. This is ridiculous. Matters are now so dire that even the New York Times, which views itself as a neutral journal of record, they're the only people that view themselves as a neutral journal of record, by the way. Everybody knows that the New York Times is a left-wing rag. And let's see, the New York Times were the ones that that denied the Holocaust and were denying the Nazis were a threat back during World War II. So shut the fuck up, dude. Yeah, they're the only people that call themselves the neutral journal of record. But anyways, the New York Times is sounding the alarm about Trump's armed paramilitary groups. They sound the alarm when Trump sneezes in the wrong direction. I mean, even the New York Times, listen to the language, listen to the framing. This is what the media always does, and then they wonder why we hate them so goddamn much. They frame everything so dishonestly and play the victim card. Well, you know what? You just make us want to make you a victim. When you act like such a whiny little bitch, it just makes me want to hang you back in the locker by your tighty whities like you were in high school again. Jesus. Last Friday, columnist Roger Cohen published an op-ed entitled "The Masked versus the Unmasked," in which he issued this warning. I don't know. We're not gonna go into that. Ultimately, I read it before, and it didn't even make a whole lot of sense, so I don't really even know what to say to it. Ultimately, the upcoming presidential election in November will be a test of the United States' ability to have a peaceful transfer of power. These guys are actually expecting a transfer of power come November. No, Trump's going to stomp that ass. Assuming the election takes place, the only reason it wouldn't take place is because the Democrats refuse to open the polls and get stymied in their attempts to actually have all of the security measures of our electoral process taken away, which they're currently trying to do with the coronavirus bill. They're trying to hold the Americans hostage so that they can take away all of the security measures of our electoral process by getting mail-in voting, getting rid of voter ID laws, and all of the above, so that they can commit mass voter fraud. So yeah, if that situation occurs where we have no security measures on our electoral process, you better believe there's going to be some people questioning the fucking results. What are you thinking? Assuming the election takes place and assuming Trump is somehow defeated, an outcome that seems increasingly unlikely. Oh, okay, well, at least they can admit that it seems increasingly unlikely. I mean, I think even they know that, Trump is too popular and Trump is just going to come and stomp that ass come November. How are the anti-lockdown protests in Michigan and elsewhere connected to the history of the Tea Party movement and its network of right-wing plutocrats and other backers? What is the role of white supremacists and other right-wing extremists in Trump's coronavirus protests? Again, the fear mongering of right wing supreme or white supremacists is absolutely this is so retread. It is so tired. It is such a bunk narrative. Yes, sure, there are some white supremacist assholes in this country. There's probably like 2,000 of them. And guess what? To the people on the right, it's a laughing stock. They're a joke. Nobody takes them seriously because the right is not some racist movement. Anyways, let's get back into this. This is just... It's infuriating just how these people gaslight and how they have the utter unwillingness to understand the opposition. And instead of trying to understand them, they just instead try to frame them as terrible people. It's an attack on character. That's all the left has because they cannot actually win an argument based on their facts, based on their logic, or even based on what's commonly right and good. Because they're actually supporting the lockdowns, the authoritarian lockdowns. All they can do is deflect what they're doing onto us. It's a tried and true practice that they have worn into the ground, but right now people are waking up to it. All right. God, I'm going to go on a lot of rants on this one. All right. How connected to the right in coronavirus protests. How are the right-wing militias and other paramilitary groups trying to plan for and incite a second American Civil War and armed insurrection, which they call the Boogaloo? If Donald Trump loses in November, how will these armed militias likely react? First of all, you have to understand the tongue-in-cheek nature of calling it the Boogaloo. It's a joke on that terrible 80s movie, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. I mean, the entire idea of calling it the Boogaloo on the right's end means that there's a tongue-in-cheek, joking nature to the entire thing. But you're shaking in your Birkenstocks. Fucking pussies. And you better believe people will react poorly if they take away all of the security measures to the electoral process, like I already mentioned. Is Trump actively encouraging right-wing violence through stochastic terrorism? I use a lot of $5 words, and even I don't know what stochastic terrorism means. And if so, why are the American people mobilizing against such anti-democratic behavior? No, this is us mobilizing against anti-democratic behavior. The fact that we are taking up arms and saying, no, you cannot lock us down in our apartments like fucking jail cells, is us mobilizing against anti-democratic behavior. How do you not see this? How? It is an effort to answer these questions. In an effort to answer these questions, I recently spoke to investigative journalist. Well, I'm sure this guy really does a lot of investigating. David Newart, a contributing writer for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay. The Southern Poverty Law Center is basically the group that goes out and just smears anybody to the right of Leon Trotsky and tries to get them defamed and discredited in the media. They are a terrible organization, and they have been. I think there's actually a mass lawsuit against them now because of all the people they've, unrightfully smeared. They're awful. They're awful. I hope Gavin McGinnis is destroying them right now. Gavin, if you're watching this, keep the fight up and smash the SPLC. Newart is also the author of several books, including Alt America, The Rise of the Radical Right in the New Age of Trump. I'm going to go ahead and fix the name of these books for him because he doesn't seem to understand it. So let's just call this one America, The Rise of Constitutionalists in the Age of Trump. Let's see, his next one is Eliminationists, How Hate Talk Radicalized the American Right. Let me fix that one for you. How Shit Talk Invigorated the American Right. Yeah, we're shit talkers. We have fun. We aren't sitting there getting all, every time somebody talks some shit. We actually make jokes and laugh. And sure, it comes at people's expense sometimes. Sometimes it comes at our expense. And if it's funny, we can laugh at it because we have a sense of goddamn humor, unlike the left. All right. And the forthcoming Red Pill, Blue Pill, How to Counteract Conspiracy Theories That Are Killing Us. Well, you can fix that one just by crossing out the word theories and just how to counteract conspiracies that are killing us. It's so funny. Conspiracy theorist just means anybody who diverges from the mainstream leftist narrative. And they always call everything right-wing. Notice how they never call anything left-wing. And that's a funny thing. You know, we get the whole concept of left-wing versus right-wing. It goes back to the French Revolution, when the people who wanted to have the revolution were sitting on the left side of, I guess it's Parliament they have. I don't know anything about the French. I mean, I don't care about the French. And the people who wanted to keep things as they were sitting on the right side of the house. So that's where we get our concepts of left versus right. Now, I personally take issue with us defining our political left versus right by anything that the fucking French did. So I think that if anything, if America were to define our politics accurately by American standards, constitutionalists would be the centrists, because those are the founding people of the American nation. Those are the founding principles of the American nation. So if you believe in the concepts that we were founded upon, then you are a centrist. You know, so anybody else is far left. So all these people they call far right, we just believe in the founding principles. All right, let's continue with this article. Is Trump actively encouraging right-wing violence? Oh, I already went through that part. Okay, so let's see. Let's get into... Oh, so this is where they have their little conversation between two lefties who completely don't understand anything about America and are probably neo-Marxists. I mean, one of them's an investigative journalist for the Southern Poverty Law Center. I mean, he would probably suck Karl Marx's dick if he was still alive to do it. The anti-lockdown protests in Michigan and elsewhere appear to be staged events. Staged events? What do you mean staged events? You mean people actually organize them? All events are staged events. In essence, they are fake protests, which are sponsored and created just like the Tea Party movement from several years ago by rich conservatives or corporate oligarchs. Look at that. They're trying to infuse Russian terminology. You know, when you think of oligarchs, you think of Russian oligarchs, because that's essentially how Russia is run. They're a gangster state. We don't have oligarchs in America. In a series of recent essays, you have suggested that these events are more complicated than that. Can you explain? I bet they're too complicated for him to understand, actually. They are AstroTurf protests in the same way the Tea Party movement was put in place by people who have corporate right-wing money, as well as the monetary support of very rich families such as that of Betsy DeVos, Trump's education secretary. But the lockdown protests, are a movement that has taken a life of its own. This has a great deal to do with structure and organization. You're going to need to show me the receipts on that. You need to show me who is setting this up, where this money is coming from. Otherwise, you're just making baseless fucking claims. Which, guess what? He's making baseless claims. The Tea Party initially was backed by right-wing corporations, interest groups, and private money, which is why it had so much support from Fox News. Again, you're gonna have to show the receipts on this. Yeah, I know, like people like the Koch brothers and stuff. They were involved in the Tea Party movement, and they did back it. But that doesn't mean that the people who were organizing and going to the rallies didn't believe in the message. The message was the message, and people actually liked it. People liked the idea of returning to constitutional law. Constitutional form. But within about 6 to 8 months, the Tea Party and its ranks swell with far-right extremists from the Patriot movement. There's nothing wrong with being a goddamn patriot. There's nothing wrong with loving this nation for what it was intended to be and not liking the direction the left has taken it. These people just want us to roll over for them. That's what this all comes down to. Deciding whether right now is the time to go into my rant about weak people in power or not. You know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and go into it. This is what we see about the left. And the left are, I mean, these people like the people here at Salon, and generally these leftist journalists, they are bootlickers. They are bootlicking toadies. That is what they are. And the reason is because they are weak, sniveling people. And weak, sniveling people love authoritarianism. They hate the concept of it, but they love actual authoritarianism because they know that if they suckle from the teat of the authoritarians, that the authoritarians are going to protect them. And they're going to stomp out their opposition. That's what weak people do. They don't defend themselves. they cower, and then they get the authoritarian cronies to come and do the dirty work for them. These patriots that you're talking about are people who are willing to pick up a gun them goddamn selves and stand in front and say, this is what we believe in and we are willing to fight for it. The problem with the left is not that they're not willing to fight for anything, it's that they won't fight for anything themselves because they're weak. We do not want weak people in power because it 100% of the time leads to authoritarianism. And they have no problem with authoritarianism so long as they can use it as their own goddamn shield. But the moment they see people that actually have a sense of courage and bravery and a willingness to put their own necks on the line and stand up with their own rifles and say, this is what we believe in and you will not tread on us, that's when they have to start gaslighting everybody. The Tea Party, the Tea Party initially, backed by Patriot Movement, over the next few years, the Tea Party became a conduit for the revival of the Patriot Movement, where right-wing extremist groups such as the Oath Keepers, wow, imagine that, somebody takes an oath and actually wants to keep it. That's real extreme to me. Jackasses. Or the Three Percenters became closely associated with the later iterations of the Tea Party. Now, I don't actually know much about those groups in particular. I know the Three Percenters has to do with if 3% of the people were to take up arms, you could win the war, that kind of thing. And there does come a time when we are so far gone, so far removed from what this nation was intended to be, and this nation was intended for people like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters to put the government and these right-wing or these left-wing cronies in check if they go too far. And guess what? They have gone too far. We have moved too far left as a nation. It's already happened. So yes, there are people that want to revert back to the founding principles of this country. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. The full iteration of these right-wing extremist militia groups in the Tea Party took some time to happen, but with Trump it is complete. With individuals and groups such as the DeVos family having set up the structure, it is easy for these anti-public health protests. These aren't anti-public health protests. These are anti-authoritarian lockdown protests. These are protests against being stuck in your house like a damn jail cell, against not being able to put food on your table because your business was forced to close, or the business that you spent 15, 20, 30 years building, still a small mom pa shop, gets shut down while cronyist companies like Walmart get to stay open. What the fuck are you guys talking about? To spread across the country. That was a run-on sentence there, I guess. The right-wing backers of the Tea Party created their AstroTurf machine, and it is now a type of Frankenstein monster that rampages across the country. You know what? You know who actually created this machine? It was people like you. It was people that write these articles, that constantly smear, that constantly hide behind their authoritarian backers, and try to degrade anybody who actually has a set of principles, and a set of balls for that matter. They are the ones that are pushing us to this point, because they can only push us so long before we push back. The fact that you haven't gotten your ass kicked goes against a lot of what you're trying to accuse us of already. Because at this point, you already have it coming and you haven't gotten it yet. Who are the various elements of these coronavirus rallies, and what should the public and news media really be focusing on? Nothing about this is invisible. So much of it is visible. It is a matter of understanding its context. Men wearing camouflage and carrying guns are not there for the purpose of defending gun rights. Well, that's one of many reasons we're there. Yeah, it is, actually. They are at protests in Michigan and other states to threaten the legislatures of the government. You know what? They're not entirely wrong there, because at some point, even as all of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson said that we need to be able to threaten our legislatures if they run roughshod over our constitutional rights. And that's exactly what the fuck they're doing. So we are well within the boundaries of what the framers had in mind for this country and for our participation in the government structure. All right. There are protests in Michigan and other states to threaten legislators and the governor. These men with guns at the protest These men with guns are at the protest to threaten anybody who tries to stop them when they go marching into the state house in Michigan. What? what we saw in Michigan was seditious. No, it wasn't. What we're seeing in these legislatures is seditious. If black people had behaved the same way with these guns wearing camouflage and threatening legislatures and the governor, they would have been shot dead by law enforcement. First of all, that is a massive assumption. Second of all, I wish more black people did come out in camouflage with their guns protesting peacefully. The problem with, and this is a whole other thing about how the media takes any kind of issue. We can see it right now with the Ahmaud Arbery case. I mean, they're trying to whip it up into a racial issue where it isn't necessarily one. They try to stir the black community into a frenzy to get them to act up and riot like they did in Ferguson and Baltimore and all these other places. If they did what these right-wing militias did and just go peacefully stand there quietly with guns and not actually hurt anybody and not actually damage anything, they would see a much different result. And I would actually welcome that. I would love to see more people actually engage in their Second Amendment rights, but do it in the right way. All right. So let's see. Let's go on. How do you interpret the symbols and codes? Oh, we're gonna get into the codes here being displayed and shared at these rallies. Confederate flags are ubiquitous. What they don't understand is that for a lot of people, Confederate flags do not actually represent racism or slavery. It represents rebellion against a tyrannical government. There's also the Gadsden flag. Now, that's the big one that represents rebellion against a tyrannical government. The latter is now associated with the Tea Party. It's been associated with the Libertarian Party and just people who believe in liberty for forever. The Gadsden flag was associated with right-wing extremist militants and the Patriot movement in the 90s, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I'm honestly not even sure whether I should go through the rest of this. I think we know exactly where this is all going. We'll go a little bit further into it. I can't promise I'm going to make it through this entire thing, because this is just absolutely absurd. The anti-vaxxers have now joined up with these right-wing extremists at these anti-lockdown rallies. Bringing in the anti-vaxxers into this. This is just getting comical at this point. It is a natural alliance of sorts, because they are all obsessed with conspiracy theories. You know, conspiracy theory is the new racist. You know, through the first several years of Trump's presidency, anybody who disagreed with the mainstream narrative was a racist, a homophobe, a bigot, whatever. Now they're conspiracy theorists. At this point, it doesn't mean anything, though, because everything that we're theorizing about are turning out to be true fucking conspiracies. I mean, look at Obamagate. This shit's really happening. This shit was really done. They've really gone from, they're just swamp toads going from lily pad to lily pad, trying to go from one distraction to the next to derail Trump's presidency so that he can't do anything and drain the swamp. This whole thing is a goddamn cover-up, and here I am sounding like a goddamn conspiracy theorist because they're committing conspiracies. I mean, the world we live in right now, it's just hilarious. It's hilarious. One of the defining features of the Patriot movement is conspiracism. One of the defining features of running a left-wing government is actual conspiracies. So, one kind of goes with the other. You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done. I can't even get through this whole article. If you guys want to look it up, it's on Salon.com. I mean, we all know that they're a left-wing rag and just a shit organization. It just goes on and on and on, and it is all the same nonsense. So, you know what? I'm done with this. I can't even get through this whole article. So anyways, guys, I forgot to do my shameless plug, so please go ahead and hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing more, pretty frequent hip shot videos here where I just shoot from the hip and respond to certain articles without a whole lot of preparation. I do have another revved up episode coming soon, hopefully by the end of this week, and it's going to be about how the Democrats are, I think, illegally implementing artificial intelligence to Democrats and big tech are using artificial intelligence to counteract Trump narratives on social media, which is essentially just code for big censorship. So that's going to be coming. That's going to be coming soon. If you want to contribute to the channel, I've had several contributions recently that have been greatly, greatly appreciated. if anybody actually saw the setup that I have when I shoot revved up, you know, I'm a filmmaker, so I can make the most out of what I have, but it's a pretty janky setup. So I'm trying to boost my setup here and actually get some decent equipment so I can, you know, get the production value higher and higher. So if you would like to contribute to the channel, there are some ways listed in the description below. Otherwise, share this video. I'm sorry I couldn't get through it all. It's just, there comes a point where it's just not worth it. You guys already saw where this was going. Anyways, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you back here, you know, for my next video. And look out for the new Revved Up. Should be coming out hopefully by the end of the week, if not this weekend or early next week. I got to do a good bit of research on it, and I actually do have a job too, so I have some other work to do. But anyways, take care, guys, and you know, go be those far right armed militias. You know. Anyways.